Hello, ladies. It's Renee, host of the Welcome to Your Life podcast. Have you thought of recording your own podcast, but the thought of learning new technology was too frightening? I know exactly how you feel. That's how I felt until I found Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and it's free. You can record from your phone or your computer, and the creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Trust me, you will not regret it. Healing takes courage, and we all have courage, even if we have to dig a little to find it. Tori Amos. Hello, truth seekers. You are listening to the Welcome to Your Life podcast. I am your host, Renee Reed. Welcome to Your Life is an Atlanta-based lifestyle podcast for women, helping you to live the life you deserve. Yes, you can get organized, live a balanced life, and get rid of your belly fat. If you're looking for tips on how to energize your relationships, faith, wellness goals, and parenting, you've found your tribe. Welcome home. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe. And did you know that you can become a monthly donor of this podcast for just 99 cents per month? Your gifts keep this podcast going, and I am so grateful for your support. Today is Relationship Monday, a heavy topic to be attacking at the beginning of the week, but I think you can handle it. We are going to deep dive into part 2 of our Can This Relationship Be Saved series. Today we are talking about emotional baggage and how it can ruin your life and your new relationships. Don't think just romantic. Think friendship, family, co-worker, church member. Emotional baggage left unchecked can permeate every area of your life and leave you feeling empty and alone. But breathe. I am going to give you 3 tips that you can use to unpack and unload this burden. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic Monday. It's the beginning of the week, and we're talking relationships. And I know this might be a little heavy to start your week off, but like I said in the intro, I think you can handle it. So, ladies, baggage. We all have it. It starts to accumulate the moment we leave the womb. A snide remark from a kid in school. I'm so disappointed in you from a parent. A dad who was physically or emotionally absent. The uncle who touched you in places he shouldn't have. The boy or the young man you loved so much and just knew he was the one, but he didn't love you back. Or worse, he left you for your sister. Yikes! And there's good baggage too. I mean, we are strong women. We have accomplished some fantastic things like starting our own companies, finishing our degrees, working our way up the corporate ladder, raising happy, successful children, raising children who are still talking to you when they grow up. Taking that vacation that you dreamt of and saved for your whole life. These are great accomplishments, and they deserve more than just an honorable mention in your life. But it's the emotional baggage that causes you the most pain, and that is the baggage that is etched into your spirit. This is the baggage that seeps into every relationship, whether it's romantic, parental, work. It determines the relationship that you have with food and with money. It sabotages your goals and your ability to connect with people in a real and meaningful way. Our interpersonal skills or people skills suck when we are carrying around emotional baggage that we have left unchecked. The way we communicate, collaborate, love, listen, empathize with others, it's all affected by our emotional baggage. Why is that? Well, because when we let old hurts remain unresolved, they dictate our emotions. And hurt people hurt people. That's not just a cliche. Now, you might be saying, I don't need this episode. I'm going to flip it off and switch the dial. You might be saying, that's stuff that happened to me when I was a kid or a young adult or at that party with Fred last year. That don't matter. I've forgotten all about that stuff. But have you? Have you really? Everything in your life appears to be okay except your relationships. And like I said, I'm not just talking about the romantic ones. How many friends have you had? Best friends that you thought you would be together forever. She's gone. How many jobs have you quit because they weren't treating you right? How many churches have you left because you just weren't being fed? Emotional wounds left unattended will fester and potentially poison your entire life. And I am not being dramatic, ladies. You might be saying, you know what? It's not me. It's the other person. But the truth is that you are the common denominator in all of those relationships. And if you hear the pitter-patter of little feet, it's Winston, my English bulldog, who has decided to join me while I record this episode. Carrying old hurts, I have found, into a new relationship, it's like a time bomb waiting to explode. You know that it's going to explode. You just don't know which situation is going to ignite the fuse. And to be honest, this isn't fair. It's not fair to you. And it's not fair to the other person who ends up on the short end of your anger, your mistrust, your intolerant attitude. Now, when I say you, I am including myself because these are all things that I had to work through. But what I realized, and what I'm hoping that you'll realize, is that you can't be happy and live your best life until you confront, unpack, and put away that emotional baggage from your past. Now, you may be able to do some of the unpacking alone. You might require a trusted family member or friend to help you unpack. And some of this baggage is so deep and so heavy, you may require professional help from a coach or a licensed therapist. As I say in every episode, don't be afraid to get help. Don't be that woman who's suffering in silence because she refuses to take advantage of the help that is available to her. And if you're not happy in your relationships, you cannot save them. But before we ditch them, I want you to try this. When we come back, I'm going to share with you Rita's story and 3 tips that I've used with myself and with other clients to help the healing process begin. They are acknowledge, forgive, and learn. We'll be right back. Hey, Truth Seekers, it's Renee, host of the Welcome to Your Life podcast and your loudest cheerleader. What could you accomplish if you were surrounded by strong, like-minded women whose only goal in life is to love and support you? If you could unleash your unlimited potential in a safe and nurturing environment? The answers are unlimited. Think about joining the Courageous Women's Network today. When you join the Courageous Women's Network, you not only have access to the support of other successful, like-minded women, but you also have access to free trainings and resources from me. Sounds good, right? So click the link in the show notes and request to join. We're waiting for you. Welcome back. Now, before we dive into these 3 tips, I have permission from one of my clients to tell her story. The names have been changed to protect the innocent, but her story really epitomizes what we're talking about today. Rita is 40 years old. She's divorced with 2 kids, and she and I started working together after she suffered a bad breakup and started to use food once again to comfort herself and lower her anxiety. She was about 30 pounds overweight when we met, and the emotional baggage she carried stemmed from her childhood. Her father left the family when she was 11 years old, and she has had very little contact with him since he left. Her mom became emotionally withdrawn and detached. She worked 2 jobs to take care of the family, and Rita was responsible for taking care of her brother and younger sisters after school. In the mental health field, we would consider Rita a parentified child. The parentified child takes on the role of the parent for younger siblings or even older ones depending on their level of maturity. They are responsible for taking care of their siblings, babysitting after school, keeping them safe, making sure that they eat dinner and do their homework, take their baths and brush their teeth. They enforce the rules of the home and they decide on the punishment. They are in charge. When we started working together, Rita just wanted to focus on losing weight. And that's what a lot of people that I work with, and even myself, when I was overweight, carrying around that 25 pounds, I wanted to figure out how to get the weight off. I really didn't want to delve into why I was eating, in the middle of the night, or why I had food at every juncture, within arm's reach, so that I wouldn't have to worry about being without it. I didn't want to go into that, or what it meant to me to have the food there, how it comforted me. And Rita was the same way. She didn't want to talk about, her emotional eating. She had the same attitude that a lot of women have who bulldoze through relationships. Take me or leave me. This is who I am, and I'm not going to change for you or anybody. But how many people eventually decide that your bad attitude is not worth the bother? So if you're one of those ladies who, you're like, look, dude, this is who I am. You either take me for who I am or, we're done. You might want to reconsider. And ask yourself, where is that coming from? Why do you feel the need to make that type of declaration? But Rita felt really protective of her mom, even though her mom wasn't loving or affectionate. Rita felt that, she kept them fed and clothed, and that even though she was only 11, it was her job to take care of everyone and to help out. Research shows that parentified children can either become super irresponsible or super responsible because they've carried so much responsibility at such a young age. In Rita's case, she was super responsible, hyper responsible. This caused her to hold everyone in her circle to an impossibly high standard. Her children, her mates, co-workers, families, friends, no one escaped. And little did they know that she kept an invisible checklist that she used to measure their performance. And if they didn't measure up, she cut them off. She was emotionally distant towards her children and, shared with me that although she told them she loved them, she rarely hugged them or scheduled any time with them. Other than church on Sunday, they were rarely together. Her children felt that they were never going to live up to her high standards and expectations, and they complained about that constantly. And that had really put a strain on their relationship. Both her ex-husband and her ex-boyfriend. Now, these are just two of the guys we talked about during our time together, but there had been a trail of relationships that, some lasted for a couple of months and some didn't even get off the ground. But these two guys both complained that she was too controlling. And even when they were together, they felt like she was not even in the room. She longed for financial security, and she pushed both of these men to work more hours, to go back to school, to apply for promotions they didn't want. And she wasn't comfortable enough or feel secure enough to be open about her feelings. So when they didn't live up to her expectations, she punished them. How many of us do that to people? How many of us punish people who don't live up to our expectations? And sometimes they don't even know what the expectation is or why it's so important to us. She never really examined how growing up without her dad had affected her life. She figured, like most of us, that was in the past and it had no bearing on her future or her present. As someone who grew up without their dad, I totally understood where she was coming from, but I also knew from experience the heartache she was headed towards if she didn't get that in check. Now, Rita is a wonderful person. She's great. At first glance, you would think she's got it all together. And she would give you the shirt off your back if you needed it. Her problem was that she wasn't able to accept people for who they are or where they were in life. She wanted to parent them and make them over. She was emotionally inattentive to her children and to the people that she loved, her boyfriend, her ex-husband. She, and no shade to her mom, but she had taken on the same attitude that her mom had. Her mom was hurt because her dad left. Who wouldn't be, right? But she passed on those feelings to Rita, who was now passing them on to her children. So the first step in releasing your emotional baggage is to acknowledge it and release it. The one thing about Rita that I want to mention is that she ate to comfort herself. How many of us do that? How many of us eat to comfort ourselves? I am an emotional eater. I eat when I'm happy and I eat when I'm sad. I have food cravings that don't even make sense, but until I tear open that bag of chips and gobble them down, I don't feel satisfied. But that is because I was not dealing with a deeper emotion, something deeper that was within me. And I was using food to cover it up, to put a Band-Aid on it, to manage it until, hoping that it would help me to feel better. And it never did. So we know that something's not quite right. I mean, I don't have to tell you that if you've been to 6 different churches in the past 2 years, and I know someone that has been to 6 different churches in the past 2 years because she wasn't getting fed, really, that something's not right. We know that. The strength of our conviction to heal comes in when we pull that from the subconscious level. Those suspicions we have, when we pull them from our subconscious and we put them right into the forefront and shine the light of truth on them. When you make a decision to do that, to acknowledge and release, you stop being a victim. You stop blaming others. And you acknowledge, maybe for the first time in your life, that you're hurt. Because pretending that something didn't hurt you doesn't make it go away. No matter how deeply we think we've buried it, it will find its way to the surface. Acknowledging and releasing allows you to turn your focus then on healing and finding joy in your present life. Some of us are so busy living in our past that we can't enjoy the present. And then some of us are so busy running from our past that we can't enjoy the present. Neither one of those scenarios will work if you want to be happy and live the life you deserve. So think about that for a minute. Are you running from your past, or are you living in your past? The second step is forgiveness. Now, this might be the hardest step, because while you might be totally justified in how you feel towards the person that hurt you, holding on to that anger only hurts you more. And it cripples your ability to love, grow, and to root yourself in peace. So while Rita and I might really be mad at our dads for leaving, I know for myself that when I, made peace with my dad and forgave him and allowed him back into my life, that was the best decision I ever made, because not only did it allow me to have a dad, I was 25 years old at the time, but it allowed me to have a dad, but it also allowed my children to have an awesome grandfather. And let me tell you, the memories that they have of Papa JT, I would not want to take those away from them for anything in the world. A lot of people think when you forgive someone, you have to pretend like what they did didn't happen, or that you have to suddenly become friends with that person. But the truth is, you don't have to be their friend. You don't even have to speak to them again. I've had clients who've had forgiveness ceremonies all by themselves. If the person who hurt you has passed away, if the person who has hurt you, you don't want to face them again. You don't want to talk to them again. And just to back up a little bit, just because that person who hurt you has passed away does not mean that you cannot have closure. You can still have closure. During your forgiveness ceremony, you're going to acknowledge and release the hurt and quietly whisper or yell to the rooftops, "I forgive you." Acknowledging, releasing, forgiving, they all work together to help you to heal. And when those old feelings pop up, because you might have a flashback from time to time, stop, think, and remind yourself that you have let those feelings go. And don't think of it as a sign of weakness. Think of it as you making the decision to move forward with your life. And that brings us to our third step, which is learning from our mistakes. Sometimes we keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. My grandmother used to say, a hard head makes a soft behind. I never understood that, but she said that all the time. But I think what she was trying to say is, in our hard-headedness attempt to, bulldoze through life, to keep our feelings in check and to not give any credence to how the stuff that happened to us is affecting us now in our present, we keep making the same mistakes with people over and over and over again. So, learning from our mistakes It's important, and that does not mean that you're dwelling on them. You don't have to wallow in your mistakes. This is not woe is me time. I don't want you to beat yourself up. I want you to practice some self-compassion and self-forgiveness. In this step, you begin to ask yourself questions so that you don't repeat the mistakes you've made in the past. And you fully release the behavior associated with that emotional baggage. And that is what these questions are going to trigger. These questions are going to change your mindset and trigger that release of your emotional baggage. And I'll put these questions in the show notes, so if you're driving, don't worry about having to write them down. But you want to ask yourself, how could I have handled that situation differently? What will I do to ensure that it doesn't happen again? Is there something I can do to salvage this relationship and make it whole? How should I apologize? Should I apologize? Who will I become when I'm healed? Why is this so important to me now? Sisters, dealing with old pain can take much longer than we have on this show. So I don't want you to rush through these steps. And like I said, if you feel the need to get some professional help, then please, by all means, get some professional help. There's nothing wrong with that. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength and understanding, to know, and a sign that you know yourself and you know your strength, you know your shortcomings, you know where you need to get more assistance. One of the things that I tell my clients when they're going through this process is take their time, be considerate of themselves, become your own cheerleader, and don't, belittle the fact that it has taken you a lot of strength and courage to get to this step, but also to carry around that baggage all those years. Some people are crushed under the weight of their past and they never recover. When you're going through, keep a journal. Journaling is an inexpensive way to access and manage your thoughts. And you don't have to share your journaling with anyone unless you want to. Healing takes courage, and we all have courage, even if we have to dig a little to find it. Tori Amos. Hey, truth seekers, you know what I'm going to say. Yes, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on today's episode. Is emotional baggage ruining your life? Let me know in the comments which step you're going to take first, or where you are on your healing journey. And let's connect. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at I am Renee Reed. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. These episodes are so awesome, if I do say so myself, but I am listening to you guys and you're telling me they're awesome, so it must be true. You can't choose your natural family, but you can choose us, and we want you. So hit that subscribe button today on whatever platform you enjoy listening to the podcast. On Tuesday, Lisa Kuttner will be on the show. Lisa is a veteran in the field of social services, having worked in the Department of Children and Family Services for 31 years. She's going to tell us the difference between kinship and foster care and how we can help families stay together when they're in trouble. So, you don't want to miss that episode. If you're on the fence about becoming a monthly donor, remember you can do so for just 99 cents. And what a great way to keep the flow of ideas moving and changing our world. Good information starts the healing process, and I can't do what I do without you. So thank you in advance. Don't forget to share this episode with someone you love or like, including your family, friends, and followers. When in doubt, remember this: you are stronger than you give yourself credit and more blessed than you know. Until next time, wishing you love and peace.